I'm Anna, the afterthought in a family of geniuses. My parents, both big shots at the university, had their lives all mapped out. Then I showed up, uninvited and unexpected. We found out too late, Mom would often say, her voice thick with regret. By the time we knew, it was already too late for other options. My sister Sarah and I were born just 11 months apart. We looked like twins, but that's where the similarities ended. She was the brain, I was the heart. From day one, it was clear who the favorite was. "Look, John, Sarah's reading already," Mom exclaimed one day when I was about 3. Sarah sat in the corner, nose buried in a book meant for kids twice her age. That pretty much set the tone for our childhood. Sarah devoured books, I devoured life. She memorized complex texts. I struggled to remember what I had for breakfast. I was diligent and hardworking, but no matter how hard I worked, it never seemed to be enough. "Anna," Mom said one day, exasperation clear in her voice, "how many times do I have to explain this? It's simple addition." I stared at the numbers, willing them to make sense, but they danced across the page, mocking me. Meanwhile, Sarah breezed through her advanced math homework in the next room. But where I lacked in academics, I made up for in personality. I was the class clown, the life of the party. My laughter was infectious to everyone except my parents. One evening at dinner, I was telling a joke I'd heard at school. And then the chicken said, Mom's sharp voice cut through my story, "Anna, enough. Laughing for no reason is a sign of low intelligence. Please control yourself." I felt my cheeks burn with shame. Across the table, Sarah smirked, her eyes never leaving her book on quantum physics. As elementary school progressed, the divide only deepened. Sarah collected academic awards like they were going out of style. Me? I was lucky if I got a gold star for attendance. I'll never forget the day of the school science fair in 5th grade. Sarah's project on cellular mitosis won first place. Mine? Well, let's just say my baking soda volcano didn't exactly erupt as planned. As we drove home, the car filled with praise for Sarah's achievement. I sat in the back, covered in dried baking soda, feeling smaller by the minute. "Well," Dad finally said, glancing at me in the rearview mirror, "I suppose not everyone in the family can be scientifically inclined." Mom nodded, her lips pressed into a thin line. "It's clear Anna doesn't have the aptitude for it. What will our colleagues think?" I sank lower in my seat, wishing I could disappear. That was the moment I realized I'd never be able to maintain their precious status in the scientific community. In their eyes, I was the disappointment, the one who couldn't carry on their legacy. As we got older, the gap between Sarah and me only widened. Sarah was whisked off to science camps, math competitions, and academic decathlons. Me? I was left with our elderly babysitter, Mrs. Jenkins, but you know what, Mrs. Jenkins was a godsend. While my parents were grooming Sarah to be the next Einstein, Mrs. Jenkins was teaching me skills that would serve me well in the real world. "Come on, Anna," she'd say, her wrinkled hands guiding mine as we kneaded dough. "Let me show you how to make a pie that'll knock their socks off." Other days, we'd clip coupons and plan grocery lists. "Listen here, girl," she'd say, her eyes twinkling. Knowing how to stretch a dollar is just as important as knowing how to split an atom. But the best lessons came during our heart-to-heart talks. "Anna, sweetie," she said one day as we sat on the porch watching the sunset, "not everyone's born a genius, but everyone can make the world a little better. You remember that?" Those words became my lifeline in a house where I never seemed to measure up. At school, Sarah continued to shine. She participated in every academic competition, bringing home trophies and medals that Mom would display proudly in the living room. My report cards, on the other hand, were hidden away in a drawer, never to see the light of day. High school was a struggle. While Sarah breezed through AP classes and sat prep, I was just trying to keep my head above water. Math was my nemesis, and no matter how hard I tried, the numbers just wouldn't cooperate. The day we got our SAT scores was the final straw. Sarah, of course, had aced it. Me? Let's just say my score wouldn't be getting me into any colleges. "A dumbass, that's what you are," Dad yelled, waving my score report in my face. "How can you be so stupid? It's simple addition, for God's sake." Mom stood by, shaking her head in disgust. "And Sarah?" She leaned against the doorframe, a smug smile playing on her lips. Not once did she step in to defend me. Not once did she offer to help. She just watched, probably thinking how lucky she was to be the smart one. I stood there, tears streaming down my face, as my parents continued their tirade. "You can't even add 2 plus 2. How do you expect to get into college, to make something of yourself?" Their words cut deep, each one a reminder of how I'd never be good enough. But somewhere in the midst of their shouting, I felt something else stirring: anger, determination, a fierce desire to prove them wrong. As I lay in bed that night, their harsh words still ringing in my ears, I made a decision. I might not be cut out for college, at least not right now, but that didn't mean I couldn't make something of myself. The day after graduation, I marched into Sunny Supermarket and got myself a job as a cashier. It wasn't glamorous, but you know what? For the first time in my life, I had something that was all my own. Within weeks, I was pulling in my own paychecks. I told my parents I'd found a job, but they barely looked up from their papers. They didn't ask where or what I was doing, and honestly, I was relieved. At least this way, they couldn't disapprove. I was still living at home, but now I had my own money. It wasn't much, but it was enough to have a little fun without having to beg my parents for cash. "Anna, you coming to the beach this weekend?" My friend and coworker from the store, Lisa, would call, and I'd grin, knowing I could say yes without worrying about the cost. While Sarah spent her summer buried in textbooks, preparing for her first semester at some fancy Ivy League school, I was living it up: weekends at the beach, movie nights with friends, impromptu road trips. I was finally free to be me. Weeks turned into months, and I settled into my new life. Sure, it wasn't the life my parents had envisioned for me, but I was happy, really happy. Then came that day, the day that changed everything. It was a Tuesday afternoon, the store was quiet, and I was restocking the gum display when I heard the automatic door swish open. I looked up, my customary greeting on my lips, and froze. There, looking as prim and proper as ever, was my mother. For a moment, we just stared at each other. I saw the shock in her eyes, followed quickly by embarrassment. She turned, clearly intending to leave without a word, but some part of me, some naive, hopeful part, called out, "Mom, hey." She turned slowly, her face a mask of disdain. "Anna," she said, her voice dripping with disappointment. "What are you doing here?" I gestured to my name tag, trying to keep my voice light. "I work here, have been for a few months now." Her eyes narrowed. "A saleswoman? Really, Anna? The daughter of a professor, reduced to this?" She waved her hand dismissively at the store around us. "What will our colleagues think if they find out my daughter is the lowest rung on the social ladder?" Her words hit me like a slap. I'd been proud of my independence, of earning my own way, but in her eyes, I was just an embarrassment. "I'm working honestly," I managed to say, my voice small. "I'm not doing anything wrong." But Mom was beyond reason. Her voice rose, drawing the attention of the few customers in the store. "You will quit this job immediately, do you hear me? I will not have you embarrassing our family like this. And you can forget about living under our roof if this is the path you choose." I stood there, rooted to the spot, as she stormed out of the store. The automatic door swished closed behind her, leaving a deafening silence in its wake. That night, I returned home with a heavy heart and tear-stained cheeks. The house was quiet, but the silence felt oppressive. Without a word, I went to my room and started packing. As I was zipping up my last suitcase, Mom appeared in the doorway. Instead of the concern I'd foolishly hoped for, her face showed only relief. "So you've finally decided to leave," she said, her voice devoid of emotion. "Good. It's for the best." Dad appeared behind her, nodding in agreement. "Remember to change your surname," he added. "We can't have you disgracing our family name with your choices." Their words stung, but I was beyond tears now. "Fine," I said, my voice surprisingly steady. "I'll take Grandpa's name. At least he knew how to love unconditionally." I grabbed my bags and walked out, not looking back. They didn't ask for my new address, and I didn't offer it. The next day, I moved in with Lisa. We'd become fast friends over the past few months, and when I told her what happened, she didn't hesitate to offer me her spare room one lazy Sunday afternoon. As Lisa and I were scrolling through social media, I came across Sarah's profile. My finger hesitated over the unfollow button, but curiosity got the better of me. Sarah's feed was a parade of achievements, photos of her receiving awards, status updates about her latest research breakthroughs, announcements of her admission to elite scientific societies. Each post had hundreds of likes and comments, all singing her praises. "Your sister?" Lisa asked, peering over my shoulder. "Have you talked to her recently?" I shook my head, remembering our last interaction. It was a few weeks after I'd left home. In a moment of weakness, I'd reached out to Sarah, suggesting we meet for coffee. Her response was cold and dismissive. "Anna, I'm afraid we don't have much in common anymore. Our interests and, frankly, our levels of development are quite different now. I don't think meeting would be productive for either of us." That was the last time we communicated directly. Despite the rift with my immediate family, I stayed in touch with my extended relatives. Aunt Martha, in particular, became a source of comfort and connection to my roots. During one of our regular phone calls, she let slip some information that simultaneously hurt and validated my decision to leave. "Oh, Anna," she sighed, her voice heavy with sadness. "I probably shouldn't tell you this, but your parents, they always ask if you'll be at family gatherings. If we say yes, they refuse to come. They say it's because you're beneath their status now, and they can't bear to be in the same room as you." I felt a familiar ache in my chest, but it was duller now. "It's okay, Aunt Martha," I said, surprised by how much I meant it. "I'm happy with my life now. If they can't accept that, it's their loss." And it was true. My life wasn't perfect, but it was mine. I had a job I enjoyed, friends who accepted me for who I was, and a growing sense of self-worth that had nothing to do with academic achievements or social status. 5 years had passed since I'd walked out of my parents' house, and life had settled into a comfortable rhythm. I'd been promoted to assistant manager at the store, my circle of friends had grown, and I'd even started taking some online classes in business management. I was content, but something was missing. That all changed on a balmy summer evening. My friends had organized a beach bonfire, and I noticed him. He was standing a little apart from the group, looking slightly out of place in his button-down shirt and khakis. But it was his eyes that caught my attention. They seemed to sparkle with curiosity as he took in the scene around him. I made my way over, extending my hand. "Hi, I'm Anna. You look like you could use a s'more." He laughed, a warm, genuine sound that made me smile. "I'm David, and yes, I could definitely use a s'more. It's been years since I've had one." As we roasted marshmallows, we got to talking. Turns out, David was an environmental scientist, fresh off a research expedition in the Amazon. We talked for hours that night about everything and nothing. David was fascinated by my stories of customer service adventures, and I was enthralled by his passion for the environment. As the weeks turned into months, David and I grew closer. He didn't care that I hadn't gone to college or that I worked as a saleswoman. He loved my quick wit, my ability to make friends with anyone, and what he called my refreshing perspective on life. I met his family at a dinner party 6 months into our relationship. I was nervous. After all, they were all accomplished scientists, but to my surprise, they welcomed me with open arms. Throughout the evening, they asked about my job, my interests, my dreams. Not once did they ask about my education or my family background. It was refreshing. A year to the day after we met, David proposed. It was nothing grand, just the two of us on the same beach where we'd first talked, but it was perfect. We planned a small wedding, just close friends and family. As I addressed the invitations, I hesitated over 3 names: Mom, Dad, and Sarah. Despite everything, a part of me still hoped. But the RSVPs came back, and those 3 remained silent. Life with David was everything I'd ever dreamed of and more. We'd settled into a cozy routine, balancing his research work with my job at the store. But as content as I was, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was meant for something more. That something more came on a lazy Sunday afternoon at David's parents' house. We were all lounging in the backyard, enjoying the warm sunshine and cold lemonade, when the conversation turned to David's latest research. "The amount of plastic waste we're producing is staggering," David sighed, running a hand through his hair. "And the worst part is, most of it ends up in landfills or the ocean." His father nodded gravely. "It's a crisis, no doubt about it. But what can we do? People aren't going to stop using plastic overnight." As they continued discussing the problem, an idea started forming in my mind. Years of working retail had taught me a thing or two about what people want and need, and all those hours I'd spent with Mrs. Jenkins, learning to be resourceful and creative, suddenly came rushing back. Before I knew it, I was grabbing a napkin and a pen from the table. "What if," I started, my voice trembling with excitement, "what if we could turn that plastic waste into something useful, something people actually want?" 3 pairs of eyes turned to me, curious. Encouraged, I continued, sketching rapidly on the napkin. "Like this," I said, holding up my crude drawing, garden furniture made entirely from recycled plastic, durable, weather-resistant, and eco-friendly. We could even make it modular, so people can customize their own designs. The silence that followed was deafening. For a moment, I feared I'd overstepped, that they'd laugh at my silly idea. But then, "Anna," David's father said slowly, his eyes wide with amazement. "That's brilliant." David was staring at me like he'd never seen me before. Do you know how many environmental problems this could solve? And the market potential, it's enormous. His mother chimed in, and it's not just garden furniture. Think of all the urban applications, park benches, playground equipment, even building materials. What happened next was a whirlwind. David's parents, excited by the potential of the idea, offered to invest in making it a reality. Before I knew it, we were setting up a company with me, yes, me, Anna Holloway, former family disappointment, as the CEO. David, with his scientific background, took charge of developing the technology to recycle and mold the plastic efficiently. I focused on design and marketing, drawing on my years of customer service experience to create products people would love. 6 months after that fateful Sunday afternoon, we launched our first line of garden furniture. The response was overwhelming. People loved the sleek designs, the eco-friendly concept, and the story behind it all. Encouraged by our success, we expanded our range. Urban planners started reaching out, interested in using our recycled plastic products for city projects. And then came the call that changed everything. The mayor's office wanted to meet with us. We met and signed a contract for the improvement of the city. 3 years had passed since that fateful day in David's parents' backyard. Our company, Eco Renew, had grown beyond our wildest dreams. We'd recycled tons of plastic waste, transformed city parks, and even started branching out into eco-friendly building materials. And now, here we were, about to receive a state award for innovation and environmental impact. As David and I stood in the grand ballroom, surrounded by the crème de la crème of the scientific and business world, I couldn't help but feel a sense of pride. We made our way through the crowd, stopping to chat with various dignitaries and fellow innovators. I was in the middle of a conversation with the city's head of urban development when I saw them, my parents and Sarah, standing near the refreshment table. They looked different. Mom and Dad had aged considerably, their hair more gray than I remembered, and Sarah, always so put together, looked exhausted, dark circles under her eyes. For a moment, our eyes met across the room. I saw the shock register on their faces, clearly not expecting to see me in such a setting. I turned to David, linking my arm through his. "Let's go find your parents," I said, perhaps a bit louder than necessary. As we walked past my family, I kept my eyes forward, chin held high. We found David's parents near the stage, beaming with pride. As we chatted about the upcoming ceremony, I noticed movement out of the corner of my eye. My mother was approaching, her eyes fixed on David's mom. "Excuse me," I heard her say, her voice sickly sweet. "I couldn't help but notice your lovely family. You must be so proud of your son and his wife." I tensed, waiting for the other shoe to drop, but my mother-in-law just smiled warmly. "Oh, we are. Anna is a remarkable woman. We're lucky to have her in our family." As she walked back to my father and Sarah, I could see them huddling together, whispering furiously. I caught snippets of their conversation. "Can't believe it's her, married into a family of scientists. Probably just here as his +1. The moment had finally arrived. As the presenter called my name, announcing Eco Renew as the recipient of the State Environmental Innovation Award, I felt a surge of pride. I walked onto the stage, my heart pounding with excitement as I reached for the microphone, ready to deliver the speech I'd carefully prepared. Chaos erupted. My mother rushed onto the stage. Before I could react, she had grabbed my arm and snatched the microphone from my hand. "Ladies and gentlemen," she announced, her voice quavering with emotion, "I am the proud mother of this brilliant, worthy woman." She gestured dramatically toward me. We always knew Anna would become something extraordinary. I stood there, frozen in disbelief, as she continued her performance, even managing to squeeze out a few tears. The audience, recognizing the famous Professor Anderson, broke into applause. In that moment, rage and hurt bubbled up inside me, years of neglect, disappointment, and rejection crystallizing into a single burning point of resolve. I would not let her steal this moment. I gently but firmly took the microphone back from her. "Thank you, Mother," I said, my voice steady despite the storm of emotions inside me. "If I could have a moment of silence, please." The room hushed, all eyes on me. "Yes, I am the daughter of the renowned Professors Anderson," I began, my voice carrying clearly across the silent room, "but I stand before you today not because of them, but despite them." I saw shock ripple through the audience, my mother's face paling beside me. I recounted the years of missed school events, of being told I was an embarrassment, of being asked to change my name and move out. I worked as a saleswoman, hiding my identity because my own parents were ashamed of me. The room was dead silent, hanging on every word. But today, I stand before you not as a failure, but as a success, not because of my family name, but because of the family I chose. I looked toward David and his parents, seeing tears in their eyes. My husband, David, and his wonderful parents saw potential in me when no one else did. They encouraged my ideas, supported my dreams. It's thanks to them that Eco-Renew exists, that we've been able to make a difference in our environment and our community. I gestured for David to join me on stage. As he walked up, I saw my father and Sarah slip out of the hall, unable to bear the scrutiny of the crowd. This award, I continued, holding up the plaque, is a testament to what can happen when you believe in someone, when you nurture their potential instead of crushing their spirit. It's proof that intelligence comes in many forms, and that kindness and support can change lives. I turned to my mother, still standing shell-shocked beside me. I'm sorry, but I can't accept your sudden pride in me. You lost that right years ago. My real family is here, I said, putting my arm around David. The hall erupted in applause, people rising to their feet. I saw tears, heard whispers of admiration and support. David's parents were openly crying, beaming with pride. In the days that followed, I heard through the grapevine that my parents and Sarah were facing backlash in their academic circles. People were shocked by their treatment of me, and many were reconsidering their associations with them. Part of me felt guilty for exposing them, for complicating their lives, as they put it, but a stronger part knew that I had done nothing wrong. I had simply told the truth, a truth that had been silenced for far too long. As for me, life went on. Eco-Renew continued to grow and innovate. David and I started talking about starting a family of our own, and every day I woke up grateful for the life I had built, for the family I had chosen,